In a quiet little town nestled between rolling hills and tall oak trees, there was a middle school where kids laughed, learned, and sometimes got into trouble. Among the teachers at this school was Mr. Carter, a man known for his sharp tongue and quick wit. He wasn't unkind by nature, he just had a habit of cracking jokes to keep his students engaged. But sometimes those jokes landed in ways he didn't intend. One crisp autumn morning, Mr. Carter stood in front of his history class, pacing back and forth as he talked about influential figures throughout time. "Today," he announced with a dramatic flourish, "we're going to talk about people who inspire us. Who do you look up to? Who makes you want to be better?" The room buzzed with excitement as students eagerly raised their hands. Some mentioned athletes like LeBron James or Serena Williams, while others named musicians like Taylor Swift or Drake. Each answer brought nods of approval from the rest of the class. When it came time for Marcus Johnson to share, the boy hesitated. Marcus was 12 years old with dark brown skin, curly hair that seemed to have a mind of its own, and eyes full of curiosity. He wasn't one of the loudest kids in class, but he had a quiet confidence that made people notice him when he spoke. Today, though, he looked down at his desk, fidgeting with the edge of his notebook. "Well, Marcus?" Mr. Carter prompted, leaning against the whiteboard. "Who's your role model?" Marcus took a deep breath before answering softly, almost shyly. "Vin Diesel." The classroom fell silent for a moment. Then someone giggled. Probably because Vin Diesel wasn't exactly the first name most people expected to hear in a discussion about heroes. Mr. Carter tilted his head, raising an eyebrow. "Vin Diesel?" he repeated, his tone dripping with skepticism. "Really? Do you even look like Vin Diesel? Or is this just wishful thinking?" A few more students laughed nervously, unsure whether they were supposed to find this funny or not. Marcus felt his cheeks flush red. It wasn't the laughter that hurt. It was the way Mr. Carter said it, like the idea of Vin Diesel being Marcus's role model was absurd. "I mean," Marcus stammered, trying to explain. "My mom says we have the same vibe." Mr. Carter chuckled again, shaking his head. Okay, he said dismissively, moving on to the next student without giving Marcus a chance to elaborate. To Marcus, it felt like the whole world had shrunk in that moment. His chest tightened and he wished he could disappear under his desk. No one else understood why Vin Diesel mattered so much to him. But then again, no one had ever bothered to ask. Later that day, as Marcus walked home alone, he replayed the scene over and over in his mind. Why had Mr. Carter made fun of him? Wasn't it okay to admire someone different from yourself? These thoughts swirled around in his head until he reached his house, a cozy little place with peeling paint and flower boxes outside the windows. Inside, his mom was cooking dinner, humming along to her favorite playlist. "Hey, buddy," she greeted him warmly, noticing the slump in his shoulders right away. "What's wrong?" Marcus hesitated, unsure how to put his feelings into words. Finally, he blurted out, "Mom, does anyone actually think I'm weird for liking Vin Diesel?" His mom stopped stirring the pot on the stove and turned to face him, concern etched across her face. "Why would anyone think that?" she asked. Gently, he told her what happened in class, the joke, the laughter, the way Mr. Carter hadn't let him explain. As he spoke, tears welled up in his eyes, though he tried hard to blink them away. His mom pulled him into a hug, holding him close. "Listen to me, Marcus," she said firmly. "There's nothing wrong with admiring Vin Diesel, or anyone else who inspires you. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about that." But even as she reassured him, Marcus couldn't shake off the embarrassment. That night, lying in bed, he thought about all the times people had teased him for things he cared about. He wondered if he should stop talking about Vin Diesel altogether. Maybe it would be easier to blend in, to pick someone everyone else liked, instead. Meanwhile, miles away, Mr. Carter sat at his kitchen table grading papers. At first, he barely gave the day's events a second thought. After all, he joked around with his students all the time. It was part of his teaching style. But as he sipped his coffee and flipped through essays, something nagged at him. He kept picturing Marcus's face, the way the boy had looked down at his desk after the comment about Vin Diesel. For the first time in a long while, Mr. Carter felt a pang of guilt. He prided himself on connecting with his students, on making learning fun. But had he crossed a line today? Had he made Marcus feel small instead of empowered? The more he thought about it, the heavier the weight of his words became. By the end of the evening, Mr. Carter knew what he had to do. He couldn't change what he'd said, but maybe he could make it right. And so, with a mixture of regret and determination, he resolved to approach Marcus the next day, not as a teacher looking to move past an awkward moment, but as a person genuinely interested in understanding why Vin Diesel meant so much to the boy. Little did either of them know, this simple decision would set off a chain of events neither could have predicted. The next morning, Marcus woke up with a heavy heart. He had barely slept the night before, his mind racing with thoughts of what had happened in class. His mother's words echoed in his ears. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about that. But no matter how hard he tried to push away the embarrassment, it lingered like a shadow. He didn't want to go to school. The thought of facing Mr. Carter again made his stomach churn. Still, Marcus knew skipping school wasn't an option. His mom always told him that running from problems only made them bigger. So, after forcing down a bowl of cereal and grabbing his backpack, he trudged toward the bus stop. As he sat on the cold metal seat, staring out the window at the orange and pink sunrise, he wondered if anyone else on the bus even remembered what had happened yesterday. Did they think he was silly for saying Vin Diesel was his role model? Or worse, did they think he was lying? When he arrived at school, Marcus kept his head down as he walked through the crowded hallways. He avoided eye contact with his classmates, fearing they might laugh or whisper about him. By the time he reached his history classroom, he felt like crawling under a rock. But when he stepped inside, something unexpected caught his attention. Mr. Carter was standing by the door waiting for him. "Marcus," Mr. Carter said quietly, motioning for him to come closer. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Marcus froze, unsure what to expect. Was Mr. Carter going to tease him again? Make another joke about Vin Diesel? For a split second, he considered pretending he hadn't heard and slipping into his seat. But then he noticed the look on Mr. Carter's face. It wasn't smug or sarcastic like usual. Instead, it was serious, almost apologetic. Reluctantly, Marcus followed Mr. Carter into the hallway, where they stood away from the other students. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Mr. Carter cleared his throat and said, "Look, Marcus, I've been thinking about what happened yesterday and, well, I owe you an apology." Marcus blinked, surprised. An apology? From Mr. Carter? That wasn't something he'd ever imagined hearing. "I shouldn't have made fun of you for saying Vin Diesel is your role model," Mr. Carter continued, his voice steady but sincere. "It wasn't fair of me to dismiss how you feel. Everyone has their own reasons for admiring someone, and I should have respected that instead of turning it into a joke. I'm really sorry if I hurt your feelings." For a long moment, Marcus didn't say anything. Part of him wanted to stay quiet, to let Mr. Carter sit with the awkwardness of the situation, but another part of him, the part that still believed in fairness, knew this was a chance to clear the air. "It's okay," Marcus mumbled, though his tone suggested otherwise. I don't see why it's such a big deal." "Mr. Carter nodded slowly. "That's my fault," he admitted. "I made it seem like it was a joke, but it's not. You care about Vin Diesel, and that's important. Can you tell me more about why he means so much to you?" Marcus hesitated. He hadn't planned on sharing this with anyone, especially not Mr. Carter. But there was something in the teacher's expression, an openness, a genuine curiosity, that made him reconsider. Taking a deep breath, he began to explain. "Well," Marcus started, his voice soft but steady. "My mom used to work on one of Vin Diesel's movie sets a long time ago. She says she met him once, and he was really nice. Ever since I was little, she's joked that maybe we're related because of our vibe, you know? Like we both have this confidence or whatever. It sounds kinda dumb now, but it's always made me feel good about myself." As Marcus spoke, Mr. Carter listened intently, nodding along. He could hear the pride in Marcus's voice, the way these stories connected him to something bigger than himself. It wasn't just about Vin Diesel. It was about identity, belonging, and finding inspiration in unexpected places. "That doesn't sound dumb at all," Mr. Carter said when Marcus finished. In fact, it sounds pretty cool. Vin Diesel works hard and he's overcome a lot in his life. If you see some of yourself in him, that's awesome. I'm glad you shared that with me. Marcus felt a small flicker of relief. Maybe Mr. Carter really did understand, or at least he was trying to. Still, there was one thing nagging at the back of his mind. But why does it matter? Marcus asked. Why are you apologizing now? Yesterday you didn't care. Mr. Carter sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. You're right, he admitted. Yesterday I didn't handle things the way I should have. I was focused on keeping the class entertained, and I didn't stop to think about how my words might affect you. But last night I couldn't stop thinking about it. I realized I messed up, and I wanted to fix it. You deserve better than what I gave you. Marcus didn't respond right away. He could tell Mr. Carter meant what he was saying, but it would take time for him to fully trust the apology. Still, he appreciated the effort. Most adults wouldn't have bothered to apologize at all. Before they went back into the classroom, Mr. Carter added, Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't you write a letter to Vin Diesel? Tell him why he inspires you. Sometimes putting your thoughts into words helps you process them, and who knows, maybe he'll write back. At first, Marcus laughed nervously. Yeah, right, he said. Vin Diesel gets thousands of letters. What are the chances he'd read mine? You never know unless you try, Mr. Carter replied with a shrug. If you want, I can help you draft it. We can make sure it's something you're proud of. Marcus thought about it for a moment. Writing a letter to Vin Diesel seemed like a crazy idea, but it also felt kind of exciting. Maybe it would be a way to reclaim the joy he'd lost after yesterday's incident. Plus, having Mr. Carter offer to help felt like a step toward rebuilding their relationship. Okay, Marcus agreed finally. I'll try. Over the next few days, Marcus worked on his letter during lunch breaks and after school. With Mr. Carter's guidance, he poured his heart into every sentence. He wrote about how Vin Diesel reminded him to be strong, to believe in himself, and to chase his dreams no matter what obstacles came his way. He included details about his mom's stories and how they inspired him to imagine endless possibilities for his future. By the time he finished, the letter was 3 pages long, and Marcus felt a sense of accomplishment he hadn't experienced in a while. On the day he mailed the letter, Marcus felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He knew the odds of hearing back were slim, but just the act of sending it made him feel hopeful. Little did he know this small gesture would soon lead to something extraordinary, not just for him, but for everyone involved. Weeks passed after Marcus mailed his letter to Vin Diesel. At first, he checked the mailbox every day, hoping for a response. But as the days turned into weeks, the excitement began to fade. Life moved on. Homework piled up, basketball practice kept him busy, and the usual rhythm of school took over. Marcus tried not to dwell on it too much. After all, celebrities like Vin Diesel probably got hundreds, maybe even thousands of letters every month. Why would his stand out? Still, there were moments when Marcus allowed himself to dream. What if Vin Diesel actually wrote back? What if he said something encouraging, something that made Marcus feel seen and understood? Those thoughts gave him a little spark of hope, a reminder that sometimes taking a chance, even a small one, could lead to something amazing. One chilly Tuesday morning, Marcus was sitting in class when the school secretary walked in holding an envelope. The room fell silent as everyone turned to look. Envelopes weren't exactly a common sight at school, especially ones addressed to students. When the secretary called out, "Marcus Johnson?" the entire class erupted into whispers. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. He slowly stood up, his legs feeling like jelly as he walked to the front of the room. The envelope was thick and glossy, with bold handwriting on the front that read, "To Marcus Johnson." There was no return address, but something about it felt special. His hands trembled slightly as he accepted it from the secretary and returned to his seat. By now, the entire class was buzzing with curiosity. "What is it?" someone asked. "Who's it from?" Another chimed in. Even Mr. Carter looked intrigued, leaning forward in his chair as Marcus carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a signed photograph of Vin Diesel, smiling confidently with his arms crossed. Beneath the photo was a handwritten note, written in neat block letters. "Dear Marcus, your letter touched my heart. I'm honored to know that you see a piece of yourself in me. Let me tell you something, you don't need to look like anyone else or share their vibe to be strong, capable, and unstoppable. Those qualities come from within, and I can already tell you have them. Never let anyone make you doubt who you are or where you come from. Keep dreaming big because the world needs more people like you, people who believe in themselves and inspire others to do the same. You're destined for greatness, Marcus. Don't ever forget that." With respect and admiration, Vin Diesel, the classroom erupted into cheers and applause. Students clapped Marcus on the back, congratulating him as if he'd won some kind of award. For once, being in the spotlight didn't feel embarrassing. It felt incredible. Marcus stared at the photo and note, reading the words over and over again until they were burned into his memory. It was surreal, almost too good to be true. Mr. Carter, who had been watching silently from the front of the room, couldn't help but smile. He had encouraged Marcus to write the letter, but he never imagined it would lead to this. Seeing the joy on Marcus's face filled him with a sense of pride, not just for Marcus, but for himself too. This moment proved that apologies and second chances could create ripples far beyond what anyone expected. Word spread quickly throughout the school. By lunchtime, everyone knew about Marcus's letter and Vin Diesel's response. Teachers stopped him in the hallways to congratulate him, and even the principal mentioned it during the afternoon announcements. "Let's give a round of applause to Marcus Johnson," she said over the intercom, "for reminding us all that courage and determination can open doors we never thought possible." As the day went on, Marcus found himself surrounded by classmates who wanted to hear the story firsthand. Some of them admitted they hadn't taken him seriously before, teasing him lightly whenever he mentioned Vin Diesel. Now, though, they looked at him with newfound respect. "That's so cool, man," one boy said during gym class. "I wish I had the guts to write to someone famous." Even kids who barely knew Marcus started approaching him, asking questions about how he came up with the idea and what it felt like to receive a personal message from a Hollywood star. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt like he belonged, not just in his group of friends but in the entire school community. At home that evening, Marcus showed the letter and photo to his mom. She burst into tears, hugging him tightly. "I always told you that you're special," she said through her sniffles. "Now the whole world knows it too." For Marcus, the experience was transformative. It wasn't just about receiving a letter from Vin Diesel. It was about realizing that his voice mattered, that even in a world full of noise, his story could resonate with someone else. He began to carry himself differently, standing a little taller and speaking a little louder. The confidence he'd always admired in Vin Diesel was starting to shine through in him. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter reflected on the impact of the past few weeks. Watching Marcus blossom reminded him of why he became a teacher in the first place, to guide, inspire, and empower young minds. The incident with the joke had been a wake-up call, forcing him to confront the ways his sarcasm sometimes overshadowed his intentions. But instead of letting guilt consume him, he chose to grow from it. From that point on, Mr. Carter made a conscious effort to listen more and speak less. He encouraged his students to share their passions, no matter how unconventional they might seem. Whether it was a love for comic books, a fascination with space exploration, or an admiration for action movie stars, he celebrated their individuality. And whenever he saw Marcus around school, he made sure to check in, asking how things were going and reminding him of how proud he was. The connection between Marcus and Mr. Carter deepened in ways neither of them anticipated. What started as an awkward apology evolved into a mentorship rooted in mutual respect. Marcus began to see Mr. Carter not just as a teacher, but as someone who genuinely cared about helping him succeed. In turn, Mr. Carter saw Marcus as a reminder of the power of redemption, a living example of how a single act of kindness could change the course of someone's life. As the weeks turned into months, Marcus taped the signed photo of Vin Diesel to the corner of his bedroom wall right above his desk. Every time he sat down to study or work on a project, he glanced at it, drawing strength from the words scrawled beneath. "You're destined for greatness." Those 6 words became his mantra, pushing him to aim higher and dream bigger than he ever had before. And while Marcus didn't know it yet, this was only the beginning. The ripple effects of his courage and Mr. Carter's apology would continue to shape both of their lives in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The months that followed Vin Diesel's response brought a noticeable shift in Marcus's life. The once quiet and reserved boy began to step into his own, embracing the confidence he'd always admired in his role model. It wasn't just about the letter anymore. It was about how it had ignited something inside him. He started participating more in class discussions, raising his hand even when he wasn't entirely sure of the answer. He joined the school's debate club, surprising himself with how much he enjoyed standing up and sharing his thoughts. Slowly but surely, Marcus was becoming someone who inspired others. Word of his story spread beyond the school walls, too. Local newspaper caught wind of the exchange between Marcus and Vin Diesel, and soon a reporter came to interview him for an article. At first, Marcus felt nervous about being in the spotlight again, but his mom encouraged him. "This is your chance to show people what you're made of," she said. So, Marcus agreed, sitting down with the reporter and talking about everything. From the day Mr. Carter joked about Vin Diesel to the moment he opened the envelope containing the actor's heartfelt note. The article was published on the front page of the paper under the headline, "Local Boy Inspires Hollywood Star with Letter of Admiration." It included photos of Marcus holding the signed picture and quotes from both him and Mr. Carter. When the issue hit stands, the reaction was overwhelming. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers reached out to congratulate Marcus, telling him how his story reminded them to believe in themselves and chase their dreams. Some parents thanked him for setting such a positive example for their own kids. But perhaps the most unexpected outcome came during career day at school. Every year, students were asked to present on future goals or professions they aspired to pursue. This time, however, the principal invited Marcus to give a special presentation about his experience with Vin Diesel. Marcus hesitated at first. He didn't consider himself a public speaker, but after some encouragement from Mr. Carter, he accepted. On the morning of career day, the auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Students filed in, chatting excitedly about what Marcus might say. Teachers took their seats alongside parents and other guests, curious to hear the boy whose story had captured the town's attention. When Marcus walked onto the stage, clutching a few note cards and wearing his favorite hoodie, the room fell silent. For a brief second, he felt the familiar flutter of nerves, but then he looked out at the crowd and saw faces smiling back at him. That gave him the courage to begin. "Hi, everyone," Marcus started, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "My name is Marcus Johnson, and I'm here to talk about something really important to me: believing in yourself, even when things get tough." He went on to share his journey, starting with the classroom incident and ending with the letter from Vin Diamond. He spoke candidly about how embarrassed he'd felt when Mr. Carter made fun of him, but also about how the apology and subsequent support from his teacher helped him grow. "It's okay to mess up," Marcus said, glancing toward Mr. Carter, who sat in the front row. "What matters is learning from it and making things right." As he continued, Marcus talked about why Vin Diesel meant so much to him. "It's not just because he's strong or cool," Marcus explained. "It's because he shows us that no matter where you come from, you can still achieve great things. And sometimes all it takes is one person believing in you to change your whole perspective." By the end of his speech, the audience erupted into applause. People stood up, cheering as Marcus grinned shyly and waved before stepping off the stage. It was a moment he would never forget. A moment that proved his voice mattered. For Mr. Carter, watching Marcus deliver that speech was nothing short of inspiring. Sitting in the front row, he couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. Not only for Marcus, but for himself too. The apology he'd offered weeks earlier had sparked a chain reaction that led to this incredible transformation. Seeing Marcus stand confidently before a packed auditorium reinforced the importance of treating every student with kindness and respect. Afterward, several teachers approached Mr. Carter, praising him for the role he played in Marcus's growth. One of them, Mrs. Patel, said, "You know, not many people would have apologized like you did. It takes real character to admit when you're wrong." Mr. Carter shrugged modestly, though he knew she was right. "Honestly, I learned as much from Marcus as he did from me," he replied. "Sometimes we underestimate the impact our words can have, both good and bad. But if we're willing to listen and grow, amazing things can happen." Inspired by Marcus's example, Mr. Carter decided to implement new practices in his classroom. Instead of relying solely on sarcasm to engage students, he focused on creating a safe space where everyone felt comfortable expressing themselves. He introduced activities designed to celebrate individuality, like having students bring in items that represented their passions or heroes. These small changes fostered a sense of community among his students, encouraging them to support each other rather than tear each other down. As for Marcus, the ripple effects of his newfound confidence extended far beyond school. He became more involved in his neighborhood, volunteering at the local library's after-school program, and mentoring younger kids who looked up to him. His mom often joked that she could barely keep track of all the invitations he received to speak at events or participate in community projects, but deep down, she was incredibly proud of the young man her son was becoming. One evening, while helping Marcus hang another award on the wall, this one for Outstanding Student Leader, his mom paused and looked at him thoughtfully. "You know, Marcus," she said, "none of this would have happened if you hadn't taken a chance and sent that letter. You taught me something important, that it's okay to dream big, even if you're scared." Marcus smiled, knowing exactly what she meant. Writing to Vin Diesel had been scary, but it had also been worth it. Not because of the fame or recognition, but because it reminded him, and everyone around him, that courage and authenticity could lead to extraordinary outcomes. And, yet as impactful as these changes were, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that there was still more ahead. Something about Vin Diesel's words, "You're destined for greatness," lingered in his mind, urging him to keep pushing forward. Little did he know, the next chapter of his journey was already unfolding, waiting to reveal lessons and opportunities he couldn't yet imagine. Through it all, Marcus carried the memory of that fateful day in history class, the laughter, the embarrassment, the apology, and ultimately, the triumph. Each piece of the puzzle had shaped him into the person he was becoming, resilient, compassionate, and unafraid to take risks. And as he looked toward the future, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, he'd face it head-on, just like his hero Vin Diesel would. As the school year drew to a close, Marcus found himself reflecting on everything that had happened since that day in Mr. Carter's classroom. What started as an embarrassing moment had turned into a journey of self-discovery, growth, and unexpected opportunities. He wasn't the same boy who hesitated to speak up or doubted his worth when others teased him. Now he stood taller, spoke louder, and carried himself with a quiet confidence that inspired those around him. The final weeks of school were filled with end-of-year celebrations, awards ceremonies, and bittersweet goodbyes. At the annual student recognition banquet, Marcus received a standing ovation when his name was called for the Perseverance Award. The trophy itself was simple, a small golden figure atop a wooden base. But the words engraved on it meant more than any material prize, for overcoming challenges and inspiring others through resilience. As he accepted the award, Marcus scanned the crowd and locked eyes with Mr. Carter, who gave him a subtle nod of approval. In that moment, Marcus felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the recognition, but for the people who had supported him along the way. After the ceremony, several classmates approached Marcus to congratulate him. One of them, a boy named Jamal, who used to tease him about Vin Diesel, shook his hand and said, "I didn't get it before, but now I see why you admire him so much. You're kind of like him, strong and fearless." Marcus chuckled, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "Thanks, man," he replied. "But I'm still just me." Jamal grinned. "Yeah, but just you is pretty awesome." That night, as Marcus lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he thought about how far he'd come. The letter to Vin Diesel had been a leap of faith, one that opened doors he never imagined possible. It taught him that taking risks, even small ones, could lead to incredible outcomes. And while receiving a response from Vin Diesel was amazing, the real reward was discovering his own strength and learning to believe in himself. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter spent the last days of the school year reflecting on his role in Marcus's transformation. Teaching wasn't just about delivering lessons. It was about guiding young minds and helping them navigate life's ups and downs. His apology to Marcus had been a turning point, not only for the boy, but also for himself. It reminded him that every interaction mattered, and even small acts of kindness could have lasting impacts. On the final day of school, Mr. Carter gathered his students for one last class meeting. He handed out personalized notes to each of them, highlighting their unique qualities and encouraging them to keep pursuing their dreams. When it came time to address Marcus, Mr. Carter paused, looking directly at him with sincerity in his eyes. "Marcus," he began, holding up the note, "you've taught us all something valuable this year. You showed us that it's okay to be different, to chase our passions and to rise above challenges. Thank you for reminding me and everyone else that we should never underestimate the power of believing in ourselves and each other." The room erupted in applause, and Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. He hadn't realized until that moment just how much his story had touched others. Sure, he'd grown personally, but seeing the ripple effects of his courage made him feel truly proud. Over the summer, Marcus stayed busy volunteering at the library, practicing basketball with friends, and working on a short story inspired by his experiences. Writing had become another outlet for him, a way to process his thoughts and share his journey with others. His mom often joked that he was becoming a writer, but Marcus shrugged it off. For now, he was content simply exploring new ways to express himself. One afternoon, while helping a group of kids at the library, Marcus noticed a familiar face walk through the door. It was Mr. Carter, carrying a stack of books and wearing a casual t-shirt instead of his usual button-down shirt. Marcus waved, surprised to see his teacher outside of school. "Hey, Marcus," Mr. Carter greeted him warmly. "Mind if I join? You?" "Of course not," Marcus replied, gesturing toward the table where the kids were coloring and reading. Together, they spent the next hour talking, laughing, and bonding over shared stories. By the time Mr. Carter left, Marcus realized their relationship had evolved beyond teacher and student. They were now friends, united by mutual respect and understanding. As the years passed, Marcus continued to grow into the person Vin Diesel's letter had encouraged him to be. He graduated high school at the top of his class, earned scholarships to college, and pursued a degree in creative writing. Along the way, he remained committed to lifting others up, mentoring younger students and speaking at community events about the importance of believing in yourself. Mr. Carter, too, carried the lessons of that year forward. He became known as one of the most compassionate teachers at the school, earning praise from students and colleagues alike. Every September, as a new batch of kids entered his classroom, he would tell Marcus's story, not to embarrass him, but to remind everyone that mistakes could lead to growth and that kindness always mattered. Years later, during a family vacation, Marcus decided to visit the set of one of Vin Diesel's latest movies. Thanks to social media, they had kept in touch, exchanging messages occasionally and sharing updates on their lives. When Marcus arrived, Vin Diesel greeted him with a bear hug and a wide smile. "I told you you're destined for greatness," Vin said, clapping him on the back. "Look at you now," Marcus laughed, feeling a surge of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without your words or my mom's stories or even Mr. Carter's apology." Vin nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes it takes a village to help someone find their path. But remember, Marcus, the hardest part is believing in yourself first. Once you do that, the rest falls into place." Back home, Marcus framed the photo Vin took with him on set and placed it next to the original signed picture from years ago. Looking at them side by side, he marveled at how far he'd come. From a shy boy afraid to speak up to a confident young man inspiring others, his journey was proof that resilience, support, and a little bit of courage could change everything. And so Marcus carried these lessons with him wherever he went, using his voice to uplift others and his story to remind people that greatness often begins with a single step, no matter how uncertain it may seem at first.